Hey there, guys. This is Slamzoran, aka YouTube's Tasuke. With what's been going on with the, I guess you could call it like the summer uh, game reveal thing. I know, like right now, the Summer Game Fest is that's one of them, and then I think the other one's like Summer of Gaming. There are a bunch of like different events going on due to what's been going on in the world with the coronavirus and whatnot. Um, but this little thing here that I want to talk about is something that a lot of people, including myself, have been kind of anticipating and kind of been hoping for. Um, this was announced, I believe, during the PS5 sort of like hardware reveal and all that, where they were showing a bunch of stuff. But Demon Souls, a remake of it, has been announced for the PS5. And holy shit, it looks really beautiful. Like it looks like the to me, it looks like how the opening cutscene looked back on the PS3 version, but like sort of like at a much higher resolution with more detail. It looks really freaking good. Like just visually, it looks really really good. There are some issues kind of with some things, um, but we'll get to that as we move onward. From Software kind of hinted at this in one of their interviews. They said like, we're not interested in doing like a Demon Souls remake, but if someone else wants to do it, they can. And with Demon Souls, it probably would be one of the few ones they could actually probably get away with doing, because for those who don't know, it's not being made by From Software. This isn't necessarily a bad thing though, because Demon Souls, from what I remember and understand, it was co-developed by From Software and Sony's Japan studio. Whereas this one, it's being done by Blue Point Games, who did the Shadow of the Colossus remake for PS4, as well as Japan studio. So it's like we're getting kind of like half of the core team, it would seem, which is I think that's okay, because I imagine it'd be kind of interesting to sort of think about what decisions From Software made that Japan Studio didn't necessarily agree with, and vice versa. But my point being is that, like, even though From Software isn't attached to this particular project, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Even though, yeah, no one can make a good From Software game like From Software, or FromSoft as some people like to call them. But Japan Studio working on the game along with Blue Point Games, I think is actually, I think that's good enough for me. We all know that From Software is working on Elden Ring and maybe some other stuff like that Bloodborne kart racer that everyone seems to want to exist, or Bloodborne 2, or my first thought would be maybe Sekiro DLC along with Elden Ring, but who knows. Um, yeah, so visually it looks really good. The trailer, it showed gameplay technically, but it showed the in-game cutscenes from the gameplay. Like um, they showed the little gargoyle guys coming down from the first part of Tower of Latria, where they come down and pull you up into the second part, which is probably my most hated level of the entire game, or one of them. Actually, no, yeah, that might be yeah. I'd have to think about it. I was thinking either that or the second part of the swamp level, where it's all like just an open swamp and you have to kind of go through it. Um, but they showed that. Um, they show the screenshot that I'm showing is one of the promotional images. I believe it's in the tutorial level. There's a image that just went up that Vadividya posted on one of his like YouTube stores or whatever, where it showed the knight kind of trying to slash at the tower knight. They do show the tower knight as well. Um, it's been a little bit of a while since I've seen the trailer, so I don't remember every detail. But visually, like I said, it looks really good. Part of the issue, though, is that they seem to be kind of adding a lot more detail and kind of making the area more vibrant than it uh, originally was. Because those who remember playing Demon Souls back in the day, the game was very sort of like bleak and honestly kind of grayscale. Um, I don't know my first thought was that it was sort of it was by design, given what kind of game Demon's Souls. Now I have to listen back and see if I said Dark Souls and be like, no, I meant Demon Souls. Um, but Demon Souls, the original, was, you could maybe argue, was sort of stylized that way. Dark Souls in particular was also, I mean, it was sort of, it had muted colors a little bit, but it had more color to it, I think. Demon Souls was like very gray and kind of brown depending on where you were. Whereas here they seem to be kind of trying to add more greenery, more color. I remember when they show I can never remember the name, the Shadow Tempest place with the skeletons that roll at you, and they show the giant manta ray, which that had the storm and whatnot. Which I remember in the original game, it was almost more like it was cloudy. I don't necessarily remember it being stormy. So they're adding a lot of details to things. I've got the Gamatsu article open, and the screenshot they show seems to be from the tutorial where you fight like the big demon guy. But because of the way it looks, it almost looks like it's meant to sort of catch you off guard to see him, which is interesting. Not to mention the monster itself looks a lot more sort of demented. You got sort of like the sort of like chain sort of circlets on him. The actual knight himself also looks to be a bit different. Still looks pretty cool, but yeah, visually it just looks really, really good. One thing, this is kind of a good thing if they do it this way. One thing I hope they may, or how do I put this? I don't really want them to mess with warding, even though I know they will. It would be kind of, they really should, just to kind of balance the game, because I imagine they want to make sure that the game is as balanced as it can be, and sort of like touch up on anything that maybe even the original game with all the patches and like different versions sort of did. Who knows, but I'll still try to use it. I'm probably going to try to, in terms of my build, I'm probably going to go for something that's similar to what I used in my second playthrough of the game, because although I no longer have the save data, Nick and I ran through the entire game like doing co-op, and we both had our different styles and stuff. It was actually a lot easier to go through the game together than it was at Dark Souls, because with Dark Souls, the way the multiplayer worked, it was like weird, like sectioned off server things, whereas one with Demon Souls, since not that many people were playing it, it was really easy for us to kind of line up in the event that there was a server thing, but also the way the online worked and the game was a bit better, in my opinion. Obviously, I think they've sort of rectified it with Dark Souls Remaster, which I don't have. Maybe I'll get it. We'll see. I'm thinking about getting Scholar of the First Sin on PS4. But yeah, so we ran through the entire game. It was actually kind of fun, and we went through it relatively quickly. For the sake of being fair, and also just because I don't remember, I'm going to say it took the entire summer. I don't remember exactly how long it took. It might have taken us a month or whatever, but it was kind of cool seeing our different styles. Like I relied on warding, he relied on second chance, or whatever they call the equivalent of second chance. I think the boss that we struggled with was it was either the Penetrator or the False King, one of the two. I don't remember exactly. And I think we had some help as well, because there were people playing. And obviously, the servers are down, but there is a private server that you can play. Unfortunately, this version's probably going to make that private server kind of irrelevant unless people want to play the original, which I think that's maybe something they should, try to maintain or something, Plus, like, just for the sort of the history behind it, like, I don't think there's any other PS3 online game that has a private server open. I'm not sure. Someone might have to correct me in the comments, but I imagine The online they'll probably try to improve it where they needed to, but the online on Demon Souls wasn't really that bad. It was actually pretty good, I think. It'll be kind of interesting to see what they do with it. I'm wondering if they're going to make any sort of like, you know, changes that From Software had made to the other Souls games, like in Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all that, where they can. Like if they're going to make it to where you can jump. Who knows? They might not want to change too much. I imagine the most they're going to do is sort of fine-tune everything. But, yeah, it looks really cool, and I'm definitely going to be picking up a PS5 after this. I was already going to get one, but I'm definitely going to get one now, especially now knowing this. I imagine Sony's probably going to want to publish the game as well. They didn't for the original release in North America. I think they published it in Japan, and then Atlas published the North American version, and then Namco Bandai published it in Europe. I imagine it's going to be released globally by Sony, because they admitted that like not releasing the game themselves was a mistake because of how popular the game was. And even before it came out officially in North America and Europe, like Demon Souls, I think was like, I don't have any stats, so I won't like say it was the number one, but it was definitely one of the more popular imports, because the Chinese version had an English text option, and the voiceover was already in English, so it didn't really playing the game wouldn't be too difficult because there was already like stuff in English that you could hear. In fact, I think Bloodborne and Sekiro are the only ones that have a Japanese dub, I believe. I think all the other ones, Demon Souls and all of Dark Souls, has only an English voiceover. But speaking of which, it'll be kind of cool to see if they get all the voice actors back. And I won't think they probably, people have been saying they won't, but I do think it would be cool if maybe they touched up on that Broken Archstone thing. That would actually be really cool to see, like, how that would be and see what they do with that, if they do. Or maybe some sort of, I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to add, if they add anything to the game. I don't know too much about how Bluepoint does their remasters and remakes and whatnot, because I didn't play the Shadow of Colossus remake, and I don't think I've played any other Bluepoint game before. I'd have to look at, like, their catalog and see. But yeah, in short, it looks pretty awesome. My only thing is, I hope that, which I kind of alluded to earlier, I hope sort of like all the, advancements in detail that they're adding doesn't really affect too much of the atmosphere, because the game was very good with the atmosphere. It was almost kind of like a horror game in a way, or like it was kind of spooky, at least to me when I first played. I remember like I was going through like the Baltaria Castle, and I was like kind of worried and nervous, like, oh shit, is there gonna get a monster that's gonna eat me? But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. The only other thing I can really think of that I might be kind of worried is sort of, this is more of like a small thing with warding. I mean, like, they're probably going to rebalance it so that it's not as OP, because you could bend the game over your knee just by casting warding. And even in my second playthrough with Nick, I used like the lesser, I think it's called like protection or whatever, and then I used warding. So like even using like the smaller version helped a little bit. And then warding, you can just bend the game over your knee. You don't even really have to work as hard to go through it. Oh, one other thing I'd also maybe like, they may not, just because I feel like that's kind of part of what the experience of Demon Souls, but if they maybe do something with the equip burden thing, that was actually kind of a pain, because I want to be able to have a full suit of armor and be able to, at least decently roll, That's definitely one addition to the Dark Souls franchise that I actually really like, since I've started being a little more agile with my playstyle. I got a new laptop, and I have Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition installed on. I was playing a little bit of that, and so I was just kind of reminiscing on sort of my playstyle. But yeah, basically I definitely kind of play a little more agile. Even in Demon Souls, whenever I do play it, I do try to kind of, adapt a little bit. I'll probably sort of, like I said, I'm probably going to sort of alter my like adapt my equipment and like build setup to kind of match what I had been using in the Souls games since. I'm still probably going to try and use the Blue Blood sword and try to get Northern Regalia if I can. Um, but as far as my armor, it kind of remains to be seen at the moment. But I I look forward to playing it with all of y'all, and it'll be pretty epic. I think pretty epic indeed, dog. But I've rambled for long enough. Basically, I'm pumped. A little cautious with the visual presentation, but it's not like it doesn't look good. It looks good. It's just obviously, seems a little more vibrant than what I think most people are maybe expecting with Demon Souls. Though, who knows? Maybe in practice it'll look better. Because, again, we saw sort of gameplay footage, but it was more like in-game cutscenes from the game. And they also showed the Dragon God, which I couldn't really tell if his gum sort of got exposed like they did in the original game. In that opening video. I wonder if they're going to do anything with that. I imagine they'll probably do some stuff with the what happens if you actually are able to beat the tutorial boss. Interesting to see how that looks in particular. The Dragon God, I think, is just going to be really interesting to look at, and the old one and all that. The game, I think, is going to be very, very stunning. Like, it's going to be something. And I look forward to seeing more from it. This was definitely a very nice surprise. So, but yeah, pretty epic, dog. I hope y'all play it with me when it comes out. We no release date on it at the moment, but I imagine it's probably gonna. It could maybe be a launch PS5 game. Who knows? But yeah, looks pretty cool. Very nice surprise. Alrighty, this is Flames Roniki, Tasuke signing out. See you later.